Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now. Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. Week 2, quick turnaround on a Thursday night game. Joined tonight with Goose and Tanner. We're going to talk a little Eagles-Vikings preview. Vikings are, I'd call, heavy underdogs going into Philadelphia on a primetime night game. All the memories of last year, week 2. Guys, Tanner, I'm going to start with you. Initial thoughts. What are we walking into tomorrow night, Lincoln Financial Stadium?
Feels like a tough football game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You circle this one on when the schedule comes out, and it probably looks like the toughest game on the schedule just because it's not a fun environment. I think everybody knows that going to Philadelphia is never team or fan friendly. The Eagles are a good team, arguably one of the most well-rounded squads in the league. They do have some injuries. There has been a couple starters declared out already, but we have our own fair share of injuries as well. So they're pretty deep at every position. And the one spot that they actually scare me the most in is their interior defensive line, and that kind of goes hand in hand with our biggest weakness right now. It seems to be our interior offensive line. So I'm pretty nervous for Kirk and his stability, I guess, going forward in this game. And I'm also kind of concerned about Justin Jefferson and he's been really great about being professional so far with everything, but I wonder how long it's going to be before he starts to lose his mind a little bit if we don't start winning some football games early in the season here. So it's going to be a tough one. I kind of expect that we're not going to come out victorious, but this also does feel like one of those games where there isn't a lot of expectation from us fans, and I could definitely see the Vikings going into Philadelphia and giving the Eagles a run for their money as well.
Not a lot of optimism coming from Mr. Weber there on the right side of the screen. Goose, any sort of positivity coming your way, or do you echo what Tanner thinks?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same feelings, but I think I'll pick up where Tanner was leaving off, which is it seems like the games where maybe we have kind of no expectations to win is when we might come out and surprise some people. It's going to be a really tough test. I like to think that the KOC-led Vikings give us a little reason to believe that they can rebound and come back and stop the bleeding a little bit. Unfortunately, I think part of stopping the bleeding could just be being competitive in this game and not necessarily winning it. I think not only do they have like the best D-line in the league, but it's so deep, and they're going to be their second, third rotation guys are going to be guys that can give Schlottman a problem with Bradbury officially ruled out, and Darisaw now questionable is pretty dang scary.
Not a lot of confidence coming from that O-line right now. And I think we all of us have memories of last year, week 2, where it just felt like it was kind of a train wreck in Philadelphia on a primetime game. Looking at ESPN, this is as of about 10 o'clock on Wednesday night here as we're recording. Vikings are 6-point underdog. I believe it started at 7.5, 8, depending on the different sports books. ESPN gives us a 35% chance to win. Philadelphia 64.7. So play the game 3 times. We probably win 1 out of those 3. Probably feels about right. I don't know. It's going to be a tough game, and offensive line, interior of the offensive line, I think we all agree is definitely scary going into that matchup, and they have a lot of issues to contend with. So, Tanner, why don't you kick us off with some tidbits on the Philadelphia Eagles? Let's see what we're up against this week on a short week.
Yeah. The Vikings have actually been very competitive with the Eagles, dating back to the 60s. We are 15, knotted up at 15-15 all-time against the Eagles. However, just 7-12 record in Philadelphia. Not been incredibly victorious there. So Vikings are 4-7 all-time on Thursday night football games, 0-5 on the road. They have never won a road Thursday night football game. So looking to break a streak there tomorrow. And they have actually won their last 3 in a row, however. So last 3 years in a row, we have won our Thursday night games, but they've all been home games. So Justin Jefferson needs 25 yards this week to eclipse 5,000 for his career. That's an insane number for just his third season in the league. He also needs 4 catches to pass Chuck Foreman and 7 catches to pass Ted Brown for 11th and 12th in team history. Kirk Cousins is 11-18 in primetime football.
11-18.
Hearing that primetime stat again. He is 3-4 on Thursday Night Football. Kirk Cousins is 6-4 against the Eagles in his career. He has been pretty successful against them, dating back to his days in Washington. He's 3-3 in Philadelphia. In those 10 starts, he has thrown for 297 yards per game, 22 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions, and a 100 quarterback rating on the dot. Jalen Hurts will be making his second career start against the Vikings. If you guys remember the game from last year, he pretty much torched us on the ground and through the air. Threw 333 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 108.7 QB rating, and a 24-7 blowout last season, also the second week of the season in Philly.
And there was no DB within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage that game. So,
yeah. Well, we're hoping we're going to bring some heat this year. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see that tweet about Baker Mayfield saying that he knew our defensive signals.
Yeah,
heading into the half. Not great.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you mean not great? Like, what do you?
I just think it's like at the first week of the season, and you got a QB who's like clearly inferior to most in the league, calling out like he already knows your defensive signals heading into the half, and we didn't like make any adjustments on that. Like they said he went back to the huddle, or I think he said on like a radio station in Tampa that he knew our calls, and he was just reiterating that to his offense in the huddle, and obviously like that paid dividends in the second half.
But he didn't exactly tear it up. That's the weird part.
I felt like they were moving the ball at will in the second half.
I mean, he threw for 170 yards. I mean, it's, you don't love to see it, but at the same time, I think you look at Kirk, who walks up to the line and you put someone in motion, and if he runs across with them, it's like, all right, they're man to man. Or you try to disguise things, but Kirk's also watching film and going, okay, based off this look, I think they're in cover 2. I think it's being kind of blown out of proportion. And there's even if a quarterback knows the defense you're in, like your defense can still be successful. Like you cover your guys. It's going to help Baker with his reads, but Baker made a couple of 10-yard out throws that were decent, and outside of that, I feel like he didn't do a ton.
Well, we'll see if that's a theme. You would think it's something that's correctable, which may actually mean that we're in better shape than we even think. Who knows?
Yeah.
We kind of interrupted your tidbits for that little intermission break there, Tanner. What else you got for us?
I'm almost done. I already iterated once. I just want to do it again real quick. The Eagles do have 3 starters out already. They're declared out, and a couple questionable for tomorrow. Kenneth Gainwell is actually listed as their starter on their depth chart. I don't know if you guys knew that
over DeAndre.
Over DeAndre Swift. Like, that's wild to me. So he is out with an injury. And then James Bradbury, the starting corner across from Darius Slay, is out. He had an excellent season last year. And then their safety, Reed Blankenship, is also out.
So does that mean if we can hold up just a little bit on the line, we can push the ball downfield? Is that what you're saying there?
I wish those injuries were like Jalen Carter. That'd make me a lot happier. Or like Brandon Graham. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I think what shocked me the most, just talking about, because I think some fans, including myself, might go, oh, great, like Gainwell's out and now Swift is their starter. I think to show kind of how, I guess, they viewed him after giving up a pretty good draft pick for him. He got 1 carry and 1 reception against the Patriots for a total of 3 yards. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll light us up, but it doesn't seem like they had a ton of confidence in him.
And then our last thing I want to do here is just bring up Brent's favorite game from last year. I want to see if you guys can guess the top 5 and the worst 5 Vikings starters per PFF in week 1.
Start with the top 5 or the worst 5?
We'll start with the top 5 best players from last week against the Bucs. See if you can nail them all 5 of them. You guys might have actually already seen this already.
I have not. And if you did, you better sit at this one out.
No, I haven't. And
I feel like most of them are pretty straightforward.
JJ?
JJ is number 3.
This is offense and defense on the whole team.
All starters, yeah.
I'm going to go with my gut and what I felt like was one of our better players, Cam Bynum.
Number 2.
Was Addison up there?
He's not listed as. Oh yeah, he is listed as a starter, but no, not top
starters. I would have guessed him too, Brent. So you saved me one there. Brian O'Neill,
number 1. Who's our best player last week?
Darisaw?
No Darisaw.
Man. Late night edition of PMG is
this is
gonna do me in here, guys.
We're getting into the nitty gritty. Okay. Did Pace grade well?
Number 4.
Wow, that was an absolute shot in the dark. But I feel like Harrison didn't splash much, and if it's not our tackles,
Daniil Hunter?
No.
No.
I'll give you a clue. He's on the offensive side of the ball.
I'm gonna go Hawkinson.
Kind of quiet. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hawkinson.
And then 5 worse.
These are the 5 worst players from week 1.
I'll give you the low hanging.
Ed Ingram can be on.
The worst player, worst graded starter for the Vikings last week was actually not talked about at all. Like nobody talked about him once.
Well, Brent checked off the easy Ed Ingram. I'm assuming
Ed Ingram is number 3, third worst player.
Wow.
Number 3. Man.
Also
no
surprising.
one talked about him. KJ Osborne?
Number 4.
Offense or defense here? We're going to need some help. We're going to have a lot of dead time.
We got 3 left. 3 left. 2 defensive players and 1 offensive player.
Metellus?
Nope.
I refuse to guess Harrison Smith.
I can. Yeah, I don't know. Give us the names.
Worst player for the Vikings per PFF last week was Dean Lowry.
Oh,
he had like a 29.3 grade or something like that. So he was basically getting his his butt kicked every down. So CJ Ham was number 2, and the 5th worst player was DJ Wanham.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So those are my titty bitties.
All right. Thanks for that, Tanner. Well, let me ask you guys a little question here. The Vikings go 0-2, and they lose a competitive game. How optimistic are you going forward? Because we would have probably all pegged them at 1-1, but the fluke game happened last week. So do they have to actually win to get back on track to feel optimism, or can you feel optimism they lose a 28-25 type game?
Yeah, I think for me it's just – no, go ahead, Goose.
I was just going to say, I think if we're in a 3-point game and we played a good game throughout in Philadelphia on prime time in a short week, my panic mode is pretty low. As much as you don't want to start 0-2, I think that would show enough signs that we can compete against
Is
probably
that
the
just
best
like
team in the NFC.
I feel that the same thing. Tanner, I'm going to ask you too, and then I'm going to add something. What do you think?
I just want to see them play well. Like if they go in and they just stay really competitive with the Eagles, I mean, I don't want to lose a heartbreaker, but because you can't really afford to start the season 0-2 in a division that feels like it's going to be competitive with how the Packers played and the Lions played in Week 1. So I'd like to see them stay competitive, just to show us that they could stay with the NFC elite and that we're going to have a chance almost every week going forward, because we do have some really tough teams on our schedule coming up here. I mean, the Chargers have a super explosive offense heading into Week 3, and then obviously you got to host Kansas City and then a super talented Niners team. Like, it doesn't feel like it gets any easier. So I'd like to just see them come out and show some fight after getting embarrassed at home by a team that seems like they're much more inferior than we are.
Now, I agree with both of you. I feel like that's the right answer. It does feel like a little bit of a Vikings loser mentality. Like we just want to be mediocre and then we're happy, right? But the flip side of that is you look on social media and not everyone, but a good chunk of fans are like, let's just tank. Season's over. We lost one game. It's over. And I feel like as many seasons as we've watched, we know how the ebbs and flows. Like you can start 5-0 and miss the playoffs, or you can start off a little slow and things can come together and you can lose some close games and still be competitive. So I'm right there with you guys. I feel like if we show signs and we play well, there's a lot of reasons to still be optimistic going forward. Of all the games on the schedule, though, this is probably the worst one to be a primetime game and then on a short week as well. That just feels like not ideal situation walking in there. And I don't know if that's last year or just primetime Kirk and lights are real bright. That atmosphere is always insane. Just feels like it could get derailed real quickly. So,
yeah. The crazy thing with what you said, Brent, is last year when we were a 13-win team, the Minnesota Vikings fan social media was filled with like, well, we can't win a game by 2 scores, and well, we can't. Oh, we got lucky, or we got. And so I think we could go undefeated, and there would still be something. So I get it. There's been a lot of heartbreak. The fact that I have already kind of calloused up for this game tomorrow is proof as well. But yeah, I think you got to have some hope, some optimism.
all right, well, let's get into predictions. Bold prediction time, guys. Let's go. One thing that we think is going to happen tomorrow night, 7:15 Central Time, I believe, is the kick. 24 hours from now, what's one thing that happened in the game? Give me a bold prediction. Goose, I'm going to start with you.
After not turning over the turnover-prone Baker Mayfield at all, I think for the Vikings to have a chance in this game that they're going to have to force Jalen Hurts to make some mistakes. And so in hopes of that, I'm going to predict that the Vikings turn over the Eagles 3 times.
Wow. Bonus points. Do we turn the ball over? And if so, how many times?
One time. So we're +2 in the turnover margin.
Wow. I take that. Tanner, give me a bold prediction. What happens in the game tomorrow night?
I'm going to say the Vikings leading player in receiving yards is not going to be a receiver. Not JJ, not Addison, and not KJ.
Big Hawkinson game, or what did you have in mind there?
Hawkinson.
Okay.
I think I think fans will be happy that he got extended this week. I think if there is a weakness on Philadelphia's defense, I feel like it's their linebacking core. And obviously Blankenship is down, and I just feel like we have some mismatches there, and I'm hoping KOC takes advantage of that.
Extra bonus points. How many of those yards come on a old tight end screen? And is it
I'm
a
hoping
negative
none.
number or a positive number?
I'm hoping none. That is
When you say none, we'll give you anything.
Every time I
negative,
see
we'll
that
throw
play
in.
develop on TV, I just want to chuck my remote through the screen because I feel like it never gets anywhere. Have we ever had a tight end screen go longer than like 7 yards?
Doesn't feel like it.
I don't think so.
I'm going to say my bold prediction is we are down by 10 points at some point in that game, and we come back to tie it up after we're down at least 10. See if that happens. Okay, give me the final score.
Well, if we're doing final score predictions, Brent, you have to go first now.
You want me to go first? All right.
Because you just
Down
said we're going
10.
to come back. So
We always said too, this year we're going to give the kind of the flow or the theme of the fourth quarter, right? So Vikings are in a close game. I have mentally already prepared that it's going to be a repeat of last year. Okay. There's going to be things that click that it feels a little bit more like the Buffalo game where we're back in it. And then we're going to have a turnover late and we're going to lose. It's going to suck. We're going to lose 25-22. And we had a chance to come down and score and kick an extra point. And we're thinking about the extra point already. We're worried about the kick. And then we turn the ball over and we lose by 6, which happens to be a push with the 6-point spread. So,
Brent, what's amazing that you referenced the Bills game because your Bills prediction was oddly similar last year. That
those
we
are
were gonna
worse.
we were gonna have a chance to win, and you said Greg Joseph was gonna have a long kick in cold, windy weather, and he was gonna miss it. You are a traumatized Vikings fan.
Well, it's like you already prepare yourself. It's not going to go well. And then it starts to kind of be a winnable game. And then just there's the knife. So that's what I got for you. Tanner, what do you got? Final score.
I think we're going to lose, and I don't think it'll be close. So I'm going to go. I just feel like we're going to struggle to score points again. I just feel like we never score points anytime we ever go to Philly. Looking back historically, I feel like we did have the one year I think we beat them. We scored like maybe 20 or something like that. But other than that, I just feel like every time we've gone there, it's struggling to get down the field and even get in a field goal range. So I'm going to go Eagles 23, Vikings 14.
And I will also say if we don't score in the first quarter, it could get ugly quickly.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That D-line is not a D-line you want to get down and become one-dimensional with.
I feel like we might be one-dimensional to begin with.
I should have had that in my tidbits, actually. The Eagles have 8 active players on their 53-man roster in their that are defensive line or interior defensive linemen. That has to be like by far the most in the league.
We snag one after the game.
That's
one back
wild to me.
Just
I should have watched
them.
the Patriots game last week. I wonder how many of them actually see the field.
Yeah, I could see them getting all of them in there. Here's my predicament. I told myself before we started recording that I had to predict a loss because if I don't predict this game as a loss, I don't know that I ever will. And I feel like I just say the Vikings are going to win every week. After you both said we're going to lose, and after I felt like there was maybe some optimism coming off of a loss, I think I have to predict that the Vikings are going to just find a way to eke one out and pull off a win. And I don't see any world where Vikings win and it's not a tough nail-biter close game. So I'm going to go Vikings win 28-27. And I think it speaks for itself, but the entire fourth quarter is just going to be
just a grind
and zero comfort. Lot of up and down on the couch, a lot of standing in front of the TV. And I'm going to say one of those third turnovers in my bold prediction is Jalen Hurts trying to make something happen to get into field goal range and makes a mistake and turns it over.
With his feet or with his arm?
Well, so if you're going to make me pick, I preferred not to.
A fumble or an interception?
that's tough. I'm like 50-50 right now, but I'll to give you what you want, Tanner, I'll say he throws a pick.
Throws a pick. How confident are you in that prediction? Is that just going against the grain, or would you bet Tanner a lunch on it?
When I started, it was just going against the grain, and I talked myself into that. I sold myself there that this is going to happen. So, Tanner, I'll buy you lunch. You buy me 2 lunches if we win because it's that much of an underdog. Those are my odds. And extra credit, after the Vikings win, there's going to be some leaked footage of JJ giving like a inspirational, heartfelt locker room message of like, I'm sick of losing. Like, let's go out here and be a dog.
Okay.
And that's going to be the Deion Sanders JJ clip of the week.
Okay. I like it. All right. Well, we got the bold predictions wrapped up. We gotta do one more thing here. Assuming we come out on the short end of the stick again, what's the one thing we're going to be complaining about Friday going into a long weekend where we just watch more football and dream about being 2-0 instead of 0-2? Tanner, what are we going to be complaining about if we don't come out on top?
I just feel like this is so obvious.
Well, then you go first. Take it off the board.
It's our interior. It's seeing Ezra Cleveland and Austin Schlottman and Ed Ingram just get dominated by Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox and Kirk. I just can't see him making it through another season, Mr. Iron Man, without having an injury as much as he got pummeled last week. Like, he was only sacked like once or twice, I think, but it seemed like he was constantly on the ground. So I would say I would be complaining about our interior getting demolished again and Kwesi not doing anything about it.
I would say I would echo that same thing. I'm guessing Goose will as well, but just to put a slightly different spin on it, we'll probably say something along the lines of play calling, which probably is a result of what Tanner just said, having to be like screens, quick hitters, like no time to go downfield at all. But it's going to really come from what Tanner's talking about with the interior of the O-line. So little spin off, but I basically agree with Tanner on that one. Goose, anything different? Any different spin on it at all?
Just to be different, I'll say that maybe concerns about like the team's emotional maturity. There was a little bit on the sidelines last week of who knows if he was yelling at himself or who he's upset with, but there was a pretty decent clip of Kirk losing it on the sidelines. JJ's pissed, which I love. I want a player to be mad when we lose. But I'm going to say if things start going bad in Philadelphia and you start seeing the players not rallying around each other and more so going to the bench, slamming their helmet down, it makes you think, okay, we lost Eric Kendricks, we lost Patrick Peterson, we lost some of these core veteran guys that maybe can step up and keep everyone together. And now we're maybe too young and too emotional. And hopefully that's not the case, but there would be a concern there that, okay, if the Vikings face adversity this year, can they pull themselves out of it? Or are we going to just start turning against each other?
Potentially derailing because of that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Well, guys, there we got it. Anything you want to add about the game tomorrow night? Any other predictions you want to throw out? Thoughts? Anything?
Tanner, you were disappointed about the lack of conversation about the Bucs last week. Is there anything that you want to say about the Eagles?
I feel like we didn't really talk about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith at all. We played Mike Evans and Chris Godwin last week, who are like top 5 receiving duo in the league, maybe top 3. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are arguably the best, and the only other one I think that you could probably argue is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So
Tyreek and Jalen Waddle.
I still feel like they just don't compete. Like A.J. Brown is just such a physically dominant dude, and I don't feel like we have a corner on our roster that's like physical enough to go coincide with him. in the short game and the long game. So that and just Devontae Smith is just an extremely good route runner. And yeah, their offense just makes me nervous as a whole. Their offensive line's very good, and I just feel like we're very inexperienced. And I'm also curious to see what Flores does differently than he did Sunday, because I know I talked to Goose a little bit earlier in the week after the game. Kind of felt last week, I don't know if you guys got that same vibe about it almost felt like Flores was blitzing too much.
Like they were gassed at the end.
And we just didn't. Like it was just the same thing throughout the entire game, and I felt like the Bucs just caught on to that. And
well, if they know all the signals.
It feels like a very easy formula, I guess, to beat us. Like send heat on defense up the middle and just do dink and dunks on offense, and you will pull chunk yardage off that because all we do is blitz. So
got two prop questions for you. We did Baker Mayfield's passing yards last week, right? Two prop questions. Jalen Hurts rushing yards. Give me a line on that.
60.
80. We'll put it at 70. Tanner, you say under. Goose says over. Is that fair or no?
I'm going to say under.
Under 70 yards?
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to say over. I'm hoping that means he doesn't have as many passing yards.
I think with that third safety that we have, that package that we have with that, I feel like that helps with mobile QBs a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say under 70.
I'll go over. 70 yards. Okay, last one, and we're going to wrap it up. What body part of Ed Ingram is going to cause us trouble? Is it going to be a foot? Is it going to be an elbow, an arm?
His left butt cheek.
In there? Okay.
We're going to butt fumble 3.0.
Can you imagine, though, if something like what else can happen?
If something else happens, I want KOC to walk onto the field, and I want him to grab Ed by his ear, and I want him to walk him to the sidelines.
Does he ever false start? I don't feel like I see that very much. Like
No,
maybe he'll get a bunch of penalties or something. I don't know.
He's going backwards. He can't.
I feel like a lot, like when I'm reviewing games, I feel like the thing that I always catch with him is he is just completely like non-existent when it comes to like twists and stunts. Like he looks like he's always like trying to give help to somebody, and then somebody comes flying through and he's like,
all right, I'm going to go with his knee. He's going to do something with his knee.
Got
any other body parts you want to throw out there? This is like a freebie little thing. You get it right, you get a free lunch.
I'm going to say Jalen Carter is going to push him into Kirk, and his left butt cheek is going to knock the ball out of his hand.
Goose? This is the best since the old draft days with bumper pool. Like,
God, I love all these free lunches I'm going to win. This is fantastic.
I'm going to say I'm going to go with the odds here, and I'm going to go his left foot.
Left foot. That would make a lot of sense.
Like he's going to trip Kirk, or what do you
maybe step on him? He might turn around and drop kick him in the. That's what I said. I'm going with the odds.
Turn around and drop kick our quarterback in the face.
He's done it. He's done it twice. I'm going left foot for 3.
No, I said knee. Do I gotta single out the left or the right, or do I get both knees?
No, I'll give you either one.
Both knees. Okay. It's got to be the front of the kneecap. Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot wait until something happens. We're going to reference 33 minutes and 50 seconds into this sucker, and there's going to be your evidence. All right, boys. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. We'll probably jump on again Friday or over the weekend, talk about either a blowout loss, close loss, or a victory, according to Goose. So, enjoy the game, everybody. We'll talk soon. Have a good rest of your night.